I think the message I want to get across is don't ignore or do not stop hiring junior developers, because you need that pipeline and they will learn, they will be as good as senior developers. Give them time. The investment you put into this young life in your company will basically pay dividends.
Michael, welcome to the show.
Hello, Shafras. Good to be here.
If you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Currently, I'm an engineering manager at GovTech, and I've been a community builder in Singapore for like the past 20 years. So I've been starting like tech communities like the Singapore PHP user group, Junior Developers Singapore, and also this other thing called Engineers.SG. So this is the logo, Engineers.SG. So when I find gaps in the community, I'll try and fill it. So like there was a gap that I found many years ago about PHP developers. I'm looking for people who learn from, and I started a community just to do that lah. My education background, I don't have a degree in computer science. That's one of the neat trivias. I majored in history and political science at National University of Singapore. So after university, I was really into the tech scene. Because the .com boom was happening, and so I basically kind of like learned programming on my own, did some web design work and at the site, and I think it came out of my natural curiosity that just want to learn how things work, and one thing led to another, and here I am, engineering manager in tech.
Quite interesting. So Michael, you mentioned that you don't have a engineering background or a computer science background, but you are a technical leader, leading some of the very important projects at GovTech as well. Like, it's quite interesting. Like, someone who doesn't have technical background might feel, hey, is this the right career path for me? Like, how did that whole transformation happen when you were starting off?
Well, I guess when I was starting out, it was of necessity. Truth be told, I didn't actually graduate. So even though I studied for a couple of years, but I was really more into the tech scene at the time. One of my little regrets, and I was working part-time. I was basically doing some web design work at the site, and I didn't manage to get enough credits to graduate. So I kind of like, you can consider me as a university dropout. Yeah, so it was out of necessity. I need to find a way to support myself, and at the time, there was I had a friend from you who was like, hey, I'm starting this web hosting company. Would you like to help me with that? So I kind of like, okay, sure, I'll help you with that. Of course, I was really into web design at the time. I will help him with the web design for his website, and then from that journey, kind of like started building websites, while doing web hosting support and all that stuff. I think one thing I really like about tech is that you can, with enough perseverance and guidance and learning, you can basically do whatever you need to do. It's kind of like, I want to achieve something. So it's kind of like, I want to achieve A. How do I do that? And you search on the internet, you find people, you find books, and that's, at the time it was books before there was Stack Overflow and all that. So there'll be books in the library, and somebody's blog. At the time, it was my first programming language. In a way, was PHP, and the PHP website was like really super helpful. And like whatever I need to build, I go to the PHP function. There's a whole bunch of discussions at the bottom that will tell me how to go about doing that. So I think for me, it was, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, all the people who dare teaching and sharing knowledge, and in a way, they also created in me the desire to share things. The whole sense of open source, about knowledge being more than the sum of its parts. Yeah.
In Singapore, I don't know if I can call out his name, but I know he has a background in audio engineering, I guess. But he's doing some amazing machine learning stuff now. In one of my previous companies that I work, he has an MBBS, but he's like one of the a top guys who are doing like deep learning and stuff. So I think it's totally up to like people where they want to go, etc. So very interesting. So Michael, when you were giving your introduction, you spoke about the community part, which is like pretty amazing. And I think that's the first time I heard about Michael from a friend of mine, Pasindu, a common friend that we have. He said like, hey Shaf, you're doing community stuff in Sri Lanka, you should follow Michael, the things that he's doing. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to learn a lot of things, because I back then you were running Singapore PHP meetup group. I think a lot of folks loved it too. But you also touch basing on like it was a need that you saw in the market. That's why you actually started off this meetup. So like tell us a little bit about that story, how you got started in this community space.
Yeah, sure. So this is probably my second or third tech job, and someone finally wants to pay me to write code. And in the company, I was like the only software engineer. It was a digital agency, and they were basically building like microsites for other people, for companies, and for the digital campaigns. This is like in the early days, 2000. Okay, if I say that, I'll reveal my age. But as a web designer and a PHP developer, I was the only engineer in the company, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I doing the right thing or not? And it was around that time that I had this desire to find other peers who were doing software engineering, because it's like I know there's this thing called a user group. At the time, there was this Java user group, and at the time there was also something called a Ruby Brigade, which is like the Ruby user group. So I was like, okay, I could probably do something for PHP. So I kind of like searched online, like, are there any like PHP user groups in Singapore? There were one or two that started like some years ago, but they never quite continued. So I thought, okay, I should probably try and do something. So I went to meetup.com, like created a meetup group for PHP. I call it the Singapore PHP user group. I kind of created it. Let's create a meetup, because there were people who might be interested in attending this meetup. I did my first meetup, and I didn't know where to go, but let's go to a pub, right? Like one pub down at Clarke Quay, and it was like four lonely cats, just 4 or 5 people showed up. I was like, I was expecting a lot of turnout, right? There was only 4 or 5 people, and I was like, okay, there's not much tech. Rather, it's more like people talking about tech and talking about what they do in PHP and all that stuff. So that was my first meetup at a pub with some people just talking about the stuff they do at their company and all that. And it was like, for me, it was a bit demoralizing, because I was like, oh shit, I thought there would be a big turnout. Turns out only 4 or 5 people showed up. I was like, oh god. And then I kept that user group going for a while. At the time, it was free to run meetups. I tried to organize more meetups, but like there wasn't anyone showing up. Then one fine day, I was like, I saw on like I was already in the tech community looking at other people's meetup groups, and there was this friend who was like, oh, we're doing this Facebook Developer Garage. It's like back then, when Facebook first released their API, you could build games on it. The Facebook games was a really big thing back then, and I was like, okay, Facebook is written in PHP, so I should probably go there and do a bit of like whatever. So at the time, I thought, okay, let's create a Facebook group. Just because I'm going to a Facebook event anyway, so I should probably do a Facebook group. Anyway, the event wasn't organized by Facebook. It was organized by one of the youth groups called E27. I think you might know them. So yeah, so it's like, okay, I should go down there and kind of like listen to what the people are saying. And at the time, I was like, okay, I since I know the organizers there, and then I kind of like, so what I did was I kind of printed some name cards like PHP user group and PHP for the Facebook group link and all that stuff. I kind of like, okay, what's the worst that could happen, right? So I kind of asked the organizer towards the end, hey, would it be okay for me to make a quick announcement to let people know about this user group that I started? And so I took the mic. I kind of like, hey, my name is Michael Cheng. I got this Facebook group, and it's for PHP developers, kind of shit. So I got like, okay, see what happens. I started giving out my name cards. Back then there was no LinkedIn or nothing. It's about name cards, right? So I just gave my name cards and all that stuff. Turns out there were quite a few people who were interested, and the Facebook group just started growing, and there's a lot of people there. I was like, okay, I think I'm a good problem. I got a lot of people joining a group now. I need to find a place to meet. So what I did then was I kind of contacted my friends in the other user groups. At the time, it was the Ruby user group, Ruby Geek Brigade. So I told them, hey, look, I need a meetup place. Where can I hold this meetup? And they say, hey, so they've been doing this at SMU for a long time. So I kind of like, okay, could you link me up with someone at SMU that could help me? They linked me up with this lecturer, and this lecturer was like, okay, we need, in order for us to host you as a group, we need to get like one of the student societies to kind of like represent. So okay, sure, who can we get? Back then in SMU, they didn't have a CS course. It was just IS, Information Systems, and they had this group called the Object Oriented Programming Society.
Wow.
And yeah, it is very, very specific, right? And then they were like, okay, sure. Then they were willing to host me for the meetup. So okay, so I have a venue, and I was like, okay, now I need to find speakers. So I kind of like create. Because I created an event, and the event started having a lot of RSVP, and I needed to find a venue, and turns out I managed to get SMU, and I was like, okay, I need to find speakers. So what can I do? What can I do to get speakers? So for me, it was like, okay, I can probably do one on PHP introduction to PHP. I also want to reach out to professionals because I'll be reaching out to newbies. I thought there are 3 groups I need to reach out to. The people who are interested in PHP were newbies. Then I also want to reach out to professionals, people who are already in the tech industry. And I also want to reach out to business folks who are who kind of like the people hiring PHP developers. So I kind of like, this is the critical 3 groups I need to reach out to. I will reach out. I will have a content. I need content to reach out to all these 3. So I will talk about PHP. I asked one of my good friends, try using to talk about security in PHP. And then I looked around for someone who could talk about something business related. So I found this guy who was like really big on open source, and he would give a talk on open source, a business and how business can leverage on open source. So okay, we did like a meetup at SMU. The first meetup we did was like, I can't remember whether I had pizza or not, but basically it was like overflowing. The entire room was overflowing with people. It was a small lecture hall, but it was like people were sitting on the floor. There was not enough seats, and it was like, and then we just had three talks. And that was our first meetup. There were 2 threads that kind of led me to this, right? One is the desire for open source learning, so that therefore that kind of drives me to build a community that could be sharing knowledge and everything. And the other part that kind of drove me into this was in the past I was an evangelical Christian in my younger days, and I felt and back as in church there this concept called cell groups, which is like a group where you can learn from and kind of grow together. So I thought I want to build something similar for the tech industry. People like me who are like lonely in this journey, like as I said, I'm the only software engineer in my company. I want to find people who has the same passion and like-minded passion for technology. And that kind of led me to building this community to bring people together to share knowledge and to support each other. And I felt that the first meetup, it was really kind of like brought to my mind, and this manifestation of like, oh, people coming together, really talking really passionately about technology and just learning from each other and helping each other. And the networking was also very good because it helps with people who are like looking for jobs and people who are looking for PHP developers. Because I said that's one of the groups I was trying to reach out to, people who are interested in hiring PHP developers. So in a way, I brought all three groups together, and that kind of like became the template for all the different meetup groups I organized in the future, right? So it's about reaching out to different groups of people, bringing them together, talking about stuff that we are passionate about, and then giving them an opportunity to network. I think so. And then in my previous life as a grassroots leader, because I used to do some work in the grassroots, there were 2 things that was important about any grassroots event. Number 1 is must have food. Food will bring them to like the midpoint, at least the midpoint of the grassroots event. And the second thing, must have lucky draw prizes. They'll bring them all the way to the end of the event. So that's why it became a template for also some of the meetups that I organized in the past, where it's like I'll always have food either at the beginning or in the middle, so people will at least stay to the middle. And the first few meetups, I actually actively look for like lucky draw prizes I can give away, so I can kind of like keep people all the way to the end. After a while, I realized actually it worked. It worked, but after a while, I also realized that people don't actually need incentive to stay all the way to the end. It's like the networking was already good enough to bring people to the end, so I don't really need like a lucky draw. But food was so important to kind of like bring them people who will come to the meetup. Usually we hold it around 7 o'clock. It's about dinner time, and people usually sometimes skip dinner to come for these meetups. So I want to make sure they don't come here empty with empty stomach and all that stuff. At least if they fill their stomach, at least they'll learn, right? So but yeah, so this is kind of like a template that I kind of worked out on, and subsequent meetups follow the same template. As in, I'll always find a speaker who would talk intro stuff and then talk about something that will appeal to like PHP professionals. And the third group about business folks, I realized that after a while they weren't really there to learn about business because they were more interested in hiring. So I thought, okay, maybe, and because having 3 speakers means I got to like 1.5 hours, not enough time to do networking. So after a while, I also like, forget it. I'll just focus on the first 2 group. What the business folks really need is an opportunity to network, to meet people. So the food and maybe the networking sessions will give those folks an opportunity to just mingle, meet people, and even give out their name cards like, oh, I'm hiring and all that stuff. So that kind of like brought me to this after a few times doing this, kind of this realization. It was much later when we started doing more meetups outside of the SMU, that we were looking at companies and all that. We also realized that there's a good opportunity to expose people to different companies that are also in technology. So visiting those companies is also interesting. Doing meetups at different companies gives us an opportunity to meet go visit those companies, and even opportunity for those companies to recruit people from our community. So it's like a win-win situation over there. So this is kind of like the different things I learned over the years, working with different people and different companies and sponsors and all that stuff. So for me, it became a template and kind of like part of the DNA of how a lot of the meetups are organized as well in Singapore right now.
I think, Michael, knowingly or unknowingly, you made a movement of like building communities. Singapore as a market, it attracts a lot of talent from outside, and also people who are internal as well. They want to like upskill themselves, because as right here you were saying, like folks might come for the food initially, they might stay for some of the raffle draws, but at the same time during this whole engagements, they would find people to talk to, like network. I myself, I found a lot of like new friends who are from different companies by attending some of these meetups as well. The first time that I met you, as also at a garage, I think it was the Geek Brunch that you organized. Very different sort of an experience. It was mostly around networking, but like, was it like related to Singapore PHP user group? Because it was quite different from how you organize the rest of the meetups.
Yeah, so Geek Brunch was I'll let you know how we first started Geek Brunch. It was we had a friend, Sayani and Chinmay. They have this podcast, and they basically bring friends in the tech community together to kind of like talk shop. And one of the meetups that they were doing, or rather one of the interviews they were doing, was with the guy who founded the JavaScript user group, and Tim Oxley. And basically it's like, okay, since he's doing a meetup, or rather he's doing an interview, we should also maybe hang out after the interview, so that at least we can kind of meet, also kind of do something social. Because all the tech meetups is like very tech, but I think there's one more opportunities for networking. So we were thinking, let's try the opportunity to network lah. This sounds like a cool idea to kind of like meet up after a podcast recording. So we kind of like, okay, let's do this. And we went out to, we didn't know how many people were coming. We just publicized, hey, Sayani and Chinmay publicized on I think it was on their Facebook or Twitter or something, and among friends we were just tweeting each other, messaging each other, hey, you got this thing happening, let's go hang out, So we kind of just decided to just hang out, and we like, where should we go? Oh, let's go to Chai Sing Huat. let's go to that coffee place where I'm sure it's big enough to hold some of us. So we went down there, we kind of like took one table, sat down there, okay, I'll wait for Tim, I'll wait for Chin Mei. And then more people showed up, right? And it was like, okay, as more people show up, we're like, okay, I think we need more tables. We just start dragging tables on the different parts of Chai Seng Huat. And it somehow, it kind of formed a little T-shaped thing, and the people were like just gathering around there. And finally Tim came, and there were a whole bunch of people came, and they were like folks in the tech community, friends of different tech meetups, JavaScript meetup, and people in the CSS meetup. It was so many, and then of course Sayani and Chin Mei showed up, and and there was like a whole bunch of us just hanging out, and it was like, oh, that's a very cool vibe. It's like just chilling, talk shop, geeking out on stuff, right? And there was like, that was such a nice experience, and you get to catch up with friends, and you can also find out about what you get to meet some new friends in the tech community. And it's like, okay, this is a cool thing. I think let's do this for real. I mean, because a community meetup like this, or tech community tech meetups is like to learn, but let's find something social. Let's do something social for our tech geeks, because it's like we're like all very introverts and not very social, but so it's like it's an opportunity to be social and practice some social skills. So yeah, which is what we did, and we did more meetups at Chai Seng Huat. But turns out, okay, I think Chai Seng Huat's capacity, only so much. So let's try a different cafe, and we found this bicycle cafe called Wheeler's Yard. And we were like, okay, let's do the meetup there. It sounds like a cool place. So we started doing this like on a quarterly basis. Every quarter we just and the group just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So as you go to Wheeler's Yard, we started taking out more tables and everything. It got to a point that I think we should tell the people who runs Wheeler's Yard that we're doing this, right? Rather than show up and start grabbing tables. So in the end, we found the name of the guy people who runs Wheeler's Yard, and kind of like emailed them, hey, we will be doing this soon. Would you guys be cool to host us and all that? And they were very cool to host us, and they were like, okay, we'll reserve a couple of tables, and and then we started taking up. Essentially, we took up half the space, right? And it was fantastic to the point that they really liked the vibe, and they kind of like. And we always do like a group photo towards the end of the meetup, and they were so cool about us using the space that they kind of passed me the microphone. And, hey, you can just make an announcement for all the people to take for the group photo, which is fantastic. So it's and then again, it's a community vibe. People come, you meet people, and I make it a point to as a newcomer come into the place, and we try and match them with someone that is of the same like interest area. So the main organizers were Sayani, Chi-On, and myself, three of us. So we were like kind of like doing this as a part of our own capacity, and we're all co-hosts, and we were like, we really felt needed to be connectors. We need to connect people to each other. So as people come in, I'll tell them, hey, what's your name? What do you do? Any people you like to meet, and then I just try to drag them to somebody who I know has a similar interest. Like, oh, you do CSS, great. You're a front-end person, great. I'll drag you to somebody who does CSS. Or you're into hardware, like technology, like hardware, electronic stuff. I'll drag you to someone who is doing that, right? And then from there, it was just, and then of course at every meetup there's stickers. And it started this tradition that we have a pile of stickers from all the like different tech meetup, tech groups and companies who had a lot of stickers. So we had this sticker pile in the middle of nowhere, in one of the tables, and people would just go there and do sticker exchange and pick up cool and awesome stickers. And sometimes it became like a treasure trove of like companies present and past. So like even extinct companies, so stickers are still, even though they're gone, but their sticker still survives in the pile somewhere. So keep doing that until the pandemic, and we stopped for a while. But after the pandemic, we start doing it again, maybe less frequent, maybe once a year or something. Yep. So but it's kind of like, that's how we kind of got started with that. And what's really interesting back then was the tech community in Singapore started ballooning or growing when we had expats from overseas coming to Singapore. to kind of work here, to live here. People from Australia, from US, from Europe, who and even places like Sri Lanka and other parts of Southeast Asia, coming to Singapore as a melting pot, right? And just bringing all their knowledge and ideas. And I remember that the early meetups that for the first few meetups that we go to, they were like more foreigners than Singaporeans, right? And even it was also reflected the tech scene at the time. This is like 2010, 2011, 2012. And there was about a time when I remember when the company that I joined, I was probably the only three Singaporeans in the team of like 30, 40 engineers, right? So, yeah, there were very few folks, Singaporeans in tech at the time. That melting pot of knowledge and technology and just I think it helped the community grow. And many of these foreigners also started meetups. As I said, Tim Oxley, who was from Australia, came to work in Singapore, and he started the JavaScript user group. And of course, there were also others like Thomas, who started the JSConf. He also from America came to Singapore, kind of like started doing all that.
If you can share some of your memories about JuniorDev.SG, how you got started, and even Coding Dojo, like both the community are still running and still existing as well.
I'll talk about JuniorDev. So as a regular to all the different tech meetups, like I do PHP, also JavaScript. At the time, I was also running Engineers.SG, so I do attend a lot of meetups to record those meetups and all that. And I started noticing a lot of fresh faces, young faces coming for those meetups. And I was like curious, who are these people? They were like, and then I kind of like talked to them. Turns out a lot of them were from coding boot camps. At the time, the first coding boot camp that started in Singapore was General Assembly. They were doing this web developer immersive. It's a full-time course, and at the time they were trying to get some government funding and all that stuff for that, so that it subsidized the Singaporeans who were going through this thing. So it turns out there were a lot of people going through this, quite a number of Singaporeans, people who were like either mid-career switchers, and I also realized there were some students who come for these meetups, and they were really excited to meet people, but when the meetup content starts, they're lost, because the content usually is like catered towards professionals, people who are in the tech industry, who understands a little bit, has some fundamentals, understands a bit about this technology stuff. So we talk about JavaScript frameworks, we talk about all these other things. Some of them were lost. Basically, they were like, "Oh, this is way too like difficult for them to understand, to grasp." Right. So this is what I found out when I was like chatting with them at the sidelines. How you feel about this meetup? And they were like, "Oh, they love the vibe. They love to talk to people, the networking, but the content tends to be a little bit too intermediate to advanced for them who are just beginners, right?" So I thought, okay, this is interesting. Maybe we should try and so I could potentially talk to the meetup organizers. Hey, could you like maybe cater at least one talk for like beginner friendly stuff, which some of them do, but not all the time. And usually when they have catered for beginner friendly content, you'll be one of those junior developers, like people who are mid-career switchers and everything, and you get them to talk about their side projects or whatever, right? So like, okay, that's interesting. Then we should find, this is a gap I see in the industry. I need to try and fill this gap. How do I fill this gap? And it was around the same time that one of my friends on Twitter, he tweeted about this meetup he was attending down in Melbourne. So in Melbourne, they had this. So basically, the meetup is JuniorDev.io, which is basically the granddaddy of all our junior developer meetups. So they started down in Australia, in Melbourne, and I saw my friend tweeted about it. He's attending this event called JuniorDev Code and Tell, which is like cool. It's like a meetup group dedicated just to support junior developers. So I thought this is a cool idea. So I reached out to my friend, hey Steve, could you like connect me with the organizers of JuniorDev.io? I want to bring this to Singapore. It sounds like a cool idea. So I managed to get them on Facebook Messenger. We're like chatting about, what does it take to bring this to kind of like take this franchise and kind of like bring this to Singapore, right? Become a franchisee, right, so to speak. they were cool about us using their name, and just creating a JuniorDev.SG and all that stuff in Singapore. But there was a couple of stipulations. Number one is organizers must have junior developers. It can't be just all like, pros like me. So okay, sure, I will definitely find junior developers who can help me co-organize this. Secondly, that the second condition is that speaker lineup must have diversity. There must be a 50% diversity ratio for all the speakers in your meetup. So okay, that will be a bit challenging, but I'll try my best to make that work. So basically, what it means that if you have two speakers, one must be of the diversity representation, is essentially a woman or someone else. Sounds quite a cool idea, but let's figure out how to get this done. So I did one meetup at Hackerspace, the first meetup. So I used all my playbook. I have this playbook about organizing meetups. Right, the playbook is create a meetup.com. Create like all the social media pages, register domain name, and then find speakers, and then get sponsors, and then like get sponsors for pizza or whatever. I think I remember I just paid out of my own pocket for the first meetup for the pizza, and so just did one meetup, and I got there were a lot of people who showed up. Yeah, I remember it was February. It was around Valentine's Day, so we kind of like started a tradition where we always organize our meetup around the 14th of the month. So anyway, so that turns out, people really like resonate with this content, because we try to make the content newbie friendly. We try to make sure that there's also diversity representation, and people just resonate with the content. And I also make it a point to break stereotypes, is that in the sense that you get a women speaker, you shouldn't just be talking about soft skill stuff. They should be talking hardcore tech stuff, right? And which is to me is important to break that stereotype. To this very day, I'm very proud that to this day our track record is 100%. All our meetup has always had this 50% diversity representation. So, but they found there was a gap that could fill, and the other programs that came out of it as well from Junior Dev, we did the meetup. So as I spoke to more people, I found that people were like interested in like learning. The meetup is cool for like absorbing knowledge, but they also want to practice. And at the time, there was another boot camp. I think this was TalkWorks. TalkWorks was doing this boot camp at the time, and the guy there, hey, I would like to support you guys. I would like to help you run coding dojos, because they were really keen on like teaching people how to code. And then he was quite adamant about doing it every fortnight, every 2 weeks, because he was like, we should do this every 2 weeks because junior developers are thirsting and hungering for knowledge, and they should be given ample opportunity to practice. Okay, sure, let's do that. I don't mind if you're willing to support. I'm willing to go with you. So we had the coding dojo at TalkWorks almost every 2 weeks, and without fail he'll be there. Like his name is Gordon, and he was like basically doing the leading the coding dojo, walking through the different things about test-driven development, pair programming, and all that stuff. And then from there, I was inspired that I should try and learn from this guy and learn how to do this as well. So I picked up his knowledge, and also did more of these meetups and coding dojos, and we kind of like changed it up a bit. And he kind of called it Developers Gym, because it's like where developers come to like gym up and kind of like strengthen their like tech skills, right? So yeah, we call it Developers Gym because he liked the idea. He wanted that to be the idea, right? And later on, as we did more, again, whatever I do is about filling gaps in the community. So much later, as I started growing more of the community, I also realized that people still couldn't find the mentoring that they need in their work. So a lot of junior developers who came to our meetups were like, they really love the vibe here, but they need something deeper than just meeting someone once a month, or more like a formal mentoring kind of relationship, right? Which to me, it would make sense, because a lot of these junior developers who they usually join a startup company, and startup companies usually have only one or two seniors, and they don't really have enough time to dedicate to mentoring all these people. And I realized that as I met more of these junior developers, I was giving them ideas about how to manage up. Essentially, how do they get the senior developers to mentor them? So I realized, okay, maybe there's a gap here we need to fill, help people find mentors in the tech community. So that's how we started the mentoring group, to kind of like create this mentoring thing. And I also felt very adamant that we should make this mentoring thing like an in-person thing, and not just like, oh, you match your mentor and you go and do your own thing. I really felt we needed to have more structure, and so that's why we did mentoring in a together as review all the groups together. And I was also quite interested in like giving more value. One of the things I want to give more value is in the mentoring program. Every time they come together, they should be learning something new, and I want to address their needs. So I kind of asked them on during the first like kickoff session. I think you were there with us for one of the mentoring groups, and yeah, the kickoff session is always about asking them what do they want to learn, what do they want to get better at, So we got topics like, oh, I want to learn how to accelerate my learning. I want to figure out how to understand more of the business context. I want to deal with imposter syndrome. I want to deal with all these other various things. How do we get better at interviews? So these are things that we from the feedback the first day, we know these are things we want to do, and then we arrow or we get all the mentors to kind of like come up with a topic that will basically teach that piece, right? Like accelerating learning. How do you accelerate learning? You give a short talk, half an hour, and let the groups just learn and everything. So yeah, again, it's about whatever I do is about finding gaps. This is a gap. Let's try and fill the gap.
JuniorDev.SG have evolved to be a mentoring program, a meetup, a coding program. A lot of folks who are just starting off in tech, or even like someone who's who wants to like sharpen their saw. Right? In your opinion, how is the program evolving with AI? Because like see pair programming, and then say if someone wants to like learn how to code and all that, like there are like ample amount of tools that are available. So in your opinion, like have you been trying out new sort of an approach to this whole program?
Some people view AI as a junior developer. It's like when you give it a prompt, you give it some suggestions or things to do. It's like you're telling a junior developer, do this for me. It works. You tell it what to do, it basically does it for you. But the context window of a actual person, I think, is higher, and the learning capacity is even higher. As in the ability, if the person is really keen, the junior developer is really keen on learning, their learning agility and the capacity to learn is definitely higher than some AI, and the ability to adapt is going to be even higher. They won't be as effective or efficient from day one, but in the long run, as you develop the junior developers, you mentor them, you coach them, they will pay dividends. As in, the investment you put into this young life in your company will basically pay dividends. In a way, I think nowadays people are hiring. People who are hiring always prefer to go for mid to senior level engineers, because they think that, oh, I get a senior guy, it can be effective from day one, right? But senior developers will grow old, and folks like me would basically retire. So you need to have a pipeline. You need to build a pipeline of succession, people who can continue the work that your company needs to do, and that's where junior developers or even fresh graduates come in, right? So they will adapt and be as effective. Of course, AI can do faster, but then junior developers need to be even more adaptable than an AI, right? And in a way, I believe the junior developers are even more effective in building a lot of these AI tools, right? Because they're more open to experimentation, they're open to like learning, and they of course they may not have the taste, they may not have the judgment to determine whether a code is good or not good. Like AI could give you a lot of garbage, and it does require a bit of like experience to kind of like, okay, to kind of like determine and discern whether this chunk of code, is it secure, is it not secure, and all that stuff, right? It does require experience, and of course they will not get it right the first time, but junior developers eventually will learn and adapt, and you'll get better, right? And it's all it takes are people like us to mentor, to guide, and to impart that knowledge, right? And to give them the opportunity to bring them up to that level. I think that's important. I think the message I want to get across is, don't ignore or do not stop hiring junior developers, because you need that pipeline, and they will learn. They will be as good as senior developers. Give them time. Of course, they can, if they pair up with AI. Of course, they will accelerate their learning, they will accelerate their delivery. But at the same time, senior developer like us, like me, like I've been using AI coding assistants for my code, and for me, it's a godsend. Give it a few prompts, and it builds the things I need. And of course, as a senior engineer, I do understand what is good code, what is bad code, and all this can also be codified and can be taught as well. So I can always, like, nowadays there's a thing called spec-driven development, where you can
Yep.
specify like how you can create guardrails around AI and with the code that they do. So it follows a certain convention. So you can specify the guardrails and the conventions, and these all can be codified. And these also can be things that junior developers can learn from. You can
Yep.
read about this thing, and they can definitely implement this. AI is definitely helping us,
Yep.
but we also need to not ignore the junior developers in our midst. Lah.
I agree with you where you said like pipeline is very important. Me and my wife the other day we were like talking about like, hey, there are a lot of juniors who are complaining that they don't have jobs. So in some of the episode I've been talking to like Julius, even with who, what we discussed like, hey, how can these junior developers find opportunity, because if there are no opportunities. So I've been doing a little bit of research, doing a little bit of reading as well, and I saw there are different approaches that folks are saying like, if you don't have a job now, some of the ways that they can find job, and then add that as a sort of a work experience. If someone doesn't have a job, someone getting a job is actually life changing, and then it's going to pay off in the long run as well. So one thing is pipeline. Second thing is around, of course, you're changing someone's life. Whole vibe coding. So in one of the podcasts, Henry did with his Tech League journal, like recently with Jane Kim in his book, he was talking about vibe engineering. Like, hey, code or do white code, but the thing is, actually need to know what's going on behind. So if someone who's junior still listening or even learning to do coding, don't just code. Know what's happening behind the scene, because that's important. Michael, you were like talking about like now in JuniorDev.SG, and even with Geek Brunch, etc. One of the key things that developers can hone is around like essential skill or soft skills, right? You were an IC at one point, and then now you're a manager. So how was it for you? Like, what are some of the changes, mindset changes that you had to do?
So I'll share a bit about my personal journey becoming a manager. When I joined GovTech 6 years ago, they gave me a title. You'll be a lead software engineer. So I guess from the title, it's kind of like assume lah you'll be leading people lah. And I went in as an IC, thinking that I would now have a technology. I'm a technology lead. You know, architecture stuff, no problem. Software, design, no problem. Architecture, no problem. Let's get it done, right? The problem then was I tried to measure others or people that are in my team by my own yardstick. As IC, I thought, I can reach this level, and I expect the same yardstick as my staff, right? And I think that's a big mistake on hindsight, because I remember the first few years when I had people who reporting to me, and when I did their appraisal, I was like, oh, you don't measure up because you're not as good as what I feel you could be, because I was using my own yardstick to measure their performance. And on hindsight, after many years, I realized that was absolutely the wrong way to do this, because each of my staff have their own preferences, growth trajectory, and way of thinking about things, right? So for that point, when I have one of my staff left the company or left my organization, that got me thinking, what did I do wrong? I remember very vividly my first 2 years, I kind of like gave somebody, because they forced us to do stack ranking, and we got to put someone in the lower bar. And twice, when I put someone in the below expectation, twice they left the organization. That was, to me, as a first-time engineering manager or a tech lead, people manager, that was, to me, it was a wake-up call, because it's like, look, you can't. Why is this happening? It turns out the problem was me. I didn't appreciate the work that they were doing enough, and the yardstick that I used to measure them was not transparent and not clear, and I was using the wrong yardstick to use to measure them. So from then onwards, I was like, okay, I need to change the way I do things, and I need to figure out how to help. Unfortunately, in GovTech, they had this program for emerging leaders like me. So they had this thing called Emerging Leaders Program, and they were basically sending people there to kind of like pick up skills about how to be a better manager. I remember in my previous job, I went for tech lead workshop, and that helped me become a better tech lead. But people management is totally different. It's about figuring out the people that work with you, and the most important thing is about caring for the people. Because if you care for the people who work for you, everything else comes naturally. It's like, I care about person A. I care about your professional growth. I care about the organization we're in. I want to make sure that you grow. I make sure that you do valuable work, and work that inspires you, and work that makes you like keen to come to work every day, right? So from then onwards, I was like, okay, I need to make sure I look out for my team, make sure everyone in my team gets at least a above average performance, just by listening to them, asking them, what do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? And challenging them to like, let's try this, just try the other thing. And I think one thing I realized back then was I had this yardstick on my staff, but I didn't tell them this is the yardstick. So from the ELP program, I learned about this thing called the principle of least surprise. So essentially, you let them know, don't surprise them with a surprise. You flunked, or no, you should be like, okay, if you do this, you will get this. If you don't do this, you won't get this, right? Kind of like natural consequences, and let them know you're on the right path. Let's do this. You're on the wrong path. Try and fix it. That kind of thing. But let them know that. Don't surprise them with things that will not happen if you. Yeah. So for me, when I start practicing this, I was more transparent, letting them know, hey, this is things you should do, and I also actively look out for stuff that could help them exhibit and show off their best talents, right? Because it's about, I realize in organization and corporations, in corporates, it's not about how good they are. It's also about how well their work is recognized by the organization, right? So it's not about, oh, this is a very awesome technology piece, but I need to let more people know about this achievement, right? Isn't it? So it's not just a hidden work. It cannot be a hidden work. If you want a person to perform well in the organization, to get good bonuses, the work cannot be hidden. And more importantly, if you want a person to be promoted, you want to make sure your boss notices this guy and the work that he do. Yeah, and then also, for me, much later, I also realized promoting someone is also has to be a very deliberate choice, because you want to make sure that person is. I went through this myself. As I went from a senior engineer to a principal software engineer, I realized I was not performing because I didn't realize I have changed my behavior to match the next level, right? And so when I now have my own staff, I want them to get promoted. I want to make sure that they can perform at the next level. There's this management principle called the Peter Principle, whereby what Peter Principle says is that a person will be promoted to the highest level of incompetence. So in the sense that if you promote a person too fast, he's effective at this level, but he's incompetent at the next level, right? Which means he's okay enough for here, but if he desires to be promoted and you push him too early for the promotion, he'll be unprepared for the next level. And when he's unprepared for the next level, he's incompetent for the next level. And that is actually doing that person a disservice. Because when you reach that level of incompetence, there are only two options left for this person. You either downgrade him back to the previous level, which is not possible in many organizations, or he leaves the organization altogether, right? Or you go through PIP or whatever. So it's because you're incompetent, chances are you cannot PIP. So and you don't want that to happen. So so nowadays I'm very deliberate, like preparing my stuff. I'm going to promote you, but I think you're ready. Make sure you're ready, and make sure I present to the management that you're ready for the next level. Which I think I will go through this Thursday. I think I have a promotion exercise happening soon, so I need to kind of like get my shit together to fight for my. So it's like as a manager, it's your as an IC, as an individual contributor, I measure myself by the line of code I deliver. Right, as an individual contributor, as a tech lead, I measure myself by lines of code, number of features delivered, number of features I deploy, and the outcome and all that stuff. Right. As an engineering manager, it switches around. It's about you, your. It's about the team. It's about the people who are under you, right? How they perform. How, because it's not about my individual performance. It's about making sure everyone can perform and deliver on the objectives and goals of the organization, right? So as an engineering manager, as a people manager, I'm not, my impact and my impact is really from the team and not myself as an individual. That's why I'm no longer individual contributor. My contribution is through the team. I have to work through the team to deliver and to be effective, right?
When you're a manager, you have to look after a
Yeah.
lot of people, like especially these days with middle management, like layers are being removed, and then a lot of like managers generally would have a lot of people to sort of manage as well. So it's a bit of a turbulent time, I would say, like across the world, with all these like organization changes that are upcoming, etc. What do you like recommend individual contributors to improve their skills on, like?
Nothing beats personal experience. Sometimes we do like tech spikes to kind of like experiment on things. So it's about figuring out what we need to do, as I said, to unblock things, right? So I think as individual contributors, you need to not just know about the technology, but you need to experience the technology for yourself. At first, I'm a bit hesitant about AI, but since I got my Copilot account and all that, I've been like playing around with it. Because as a engineer, I need to know what are the boundaries, what are the limits of the technology, what it can do, what it cannot do. Like I was like trying to figure out whether how we can run LM models locally, so without going to the cloud and all that stuff. And so like I need to learn how to get done, right? Because to me, it's that personal knowledge stays with me for life,
Yeah.
and I think that's important. Even like technologies that I'm not familiar. I've been playing around with like Temporal as a workflow engine because I really want to know how what I can do or cannot do with it. Because otherwise, how can I advise my stakeholders on like what better tools, what tools are out there that could help us get things done, right? Like this is a major thing I did recently. Was I'm really big on open API spec for building applications nowadays, because I know that's kind of like the like having an automated, having a descriptor of your API helps with all sorts of automation. And what I did recently was, I need to create an open API spec for this API we need to integrate with. But they only gave me a Word document. So what can I do? Okay, I'll just drop in the Word document and let the AI generate an open API spec for me. And it did it very quickly. And I was able to use that and execute some like test scripts with it very quickly. It's like, wow, I knew we can do that, but I didn't know it was this fast. But it accelerates our development so much, right? So in the sense, knowing and understanding what the technologies can do, cannot do, gives you opportunities to kind of like pick things up and try things. And have you read the book Who Moved My Cheese?
Yep.
Earlier this year, or rather late last year, I was like, I had this epitome that cheese
You
is
had to read,
moving.
right?
Yeah, I reread it, and then kind of like, I need to get this for my team. So I bought like 20 copies and started giving it away to my team members to kind of like, hey, you need to read this. Here's your assignment. Take this and tell me which character are you. Are you a sniff or scurry or ham or haw? Tell me who you are and what your reflections about this thing. And I gave it to all my team members so that you know that cheese is moving. We got to go where the cheese is, right?
Yeah.
The AI is one of those technologies. Like AI accelerates things. If you don't follow this trend, you're losing out. I mean, it's about at the end of the day, as a software engineer, I want to be at the forefront of technology, but at the same time, I want to make sure we use the right tools.
True.
And knowing what the tools are, what it can or cannot do, will give us an edge, no matter where we work, right? So, nothing beats personal experience. So my
True.
summary is: if you see a technology you're unfamiliar with, try it out. Figure out how to play around with it. Figure out what you can and cannot do. That knowledge sticks with you for life, and it helps you be effective as a software engineer, as an IC. And
So, in your opinion, does T still stands away, or do you think everyone should be a generalist?
actually, there's another one called the paint drip.
Hmm.
Paint
Interesting.
drip, which means like you paint and a lot of drips and a lot. So essentially, we could have more than one.
Yeah.
What it's saying is that you don't need to limit yourself with just one. Of course, it's easy as a junior developer. You usually have one you can focus on,
Yeah.
and then you try to be a generalist. But once you become a generalist, you realize, oh, actually, other things I can do better at, and there could be more than one thing that you could be good at. So don't limit yourself. I mean, just thinking about, I just want to be a T-shaped person, it's a very limiting mindset.
True.
Go beyond that paint drip. So yeah.
Yeah. So, but when it comes to like, I think promotions, etc., like how does it affect? Like, how would a engineer tell the story? Like, hey, I have many talents. I have performed in different things. So T-shape is generally someone can easily tell the story like, hey, I'm really good at this. But in paint drip, it's there are a lot, right?
It's really about opportunity and output and good outcomes.
Yeah.
So it's about making sure that your manager, or let your manager know, I want to do more of A or B or C. So like for the paint drip, I want to do more of this, more of this, more of this. Like one of my staff some years ago, he kind of told me, hey, my team, our team is doing more Ruby on Rails, but I really do want to try and do more like a Golang project. I was like, okay, Golang, sure. We don't have any opportunity to do Golang because none of our stuff is in Golang, but I'll I'll keep a lookout for you. And then lo and behold, there was like, oh, we need to do this. This is during the pandemic, and there was one very rushy pandemic
Mhm.
project that we need to do. We can try using Golang. We know we can deliver. We can definitely
True.
build this. So a bunch of Lambda functions. Golang is like chef's kiss, can be done. So, and then the best part, we have another team in the ministry that was already using Golang for something
Mhm.
similar. So, okay, we can probably share some code. So I kind of spoke to the other team. Would you like to share your code best practices so that at least we can try to build this thing as
Mhm.
with Golang? So it's about opportunity. Number one, as a
Yeah.
manager, figuring out whether there are opportunities to do this, and found an opportunity. Now it's about the output, making sure that I can really do that. I can output the thing that is needed to get things done, right? And then once that is done, you measure the outcome. Essentially, the impact is really about the outcome. You delivered on this. What have we achieved? Who has benefited from this thing? How many people? And then it's about the size of the outcome, the impact, and all that stuff. Once you get all these lined up, definitely can try and use that to kind of like push for a good result. And I think through this exercise, I was able to like help this engineer uh, perform beyond above average, and to a point that I think I was able to also push for a promotion for him as well.
Wow.
So as I said just now about the Peter principle, you need to make sure the person is ready for the next level as well. So it's
Yeah.
not just about, oh, you want to promote, I'll promote you, but it's more like, okay, the next level, this is the expectation of
Yeah.
the behaviors of the next level, and preparing that person. Of course, the outcome, the opportunity output outcome would show that you can actually deliver. But question is this delivering at the next level, right?
Yeah.
At the level that is we expect you to get to, or as like say from a SUI one to a SUI two, or to a senior software engineer,
Mhm.
are you performing at that level? And what's the expected behavior of a person at that level? Do you need to do more mentoring? Do you need to do more architecture? Do you need to do more influence and impact beyond your team, right? So it's I think it's also varies from organization to organization. Understanding how your organization measures
True.
people or determine you're at the next level is also important. So once you know that, then you can prepare your staff for that promotion. As in, I want you make sure you're ready for the next level because you're going to be continuing in this organization, right? And if the organization measures you or thinks about you at the next level through this set of behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure you hit those marks and make sure you hit those marks and excel at those marks, right? When someone tells me they don't get promoted, sure. Oh, why do you want to get promoted? Of course, money is there, but
Yeah.
you get promoted is actually
That's a
there's
big
also
factor, right?
that's a big factor. But once you get promoted, there's also additional stress because now I need
Yeah.
to measure you at that level. The organization needs to measure you at that level. I need to justify that you can perform at the level, right? So sometimes holding off a promotion is actually not a bad idea. Like I had one staff that was really doing very well, but he was still lacking in some areas. He needs to do and showcase more of his mentoring capabilities. That was the exact feedback that was given to me at the evaluation panel, right? So this guy is good, but he needs to showcase more of like explicitly mentoring others in the team. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's really a part where he did informally but never quite formally to kind of like, so okay, I need to we need to exhibit this. I need to make sure the organization recognize this. And so what I did was like, okay, person A, do more mentoring, and he went all out to do it. So it's so much so that he's like collecting a journal of like what
Wow.
he did, the mentoring stuff he did with specific people in the team. He had a mentoring log and like help them kind of figure out how to get better. And it's just, and to me that was like, oh, okay, good documentation. We can now use that as it's like a brag document. Use that. I think good organizations should also tell you what's missing.
Yep.
Like my organization, we were able to like measure people and talk about the next level with some descriptors that talks about behaviors at the next level, and to a point that they can even tell me, okay, this lacking this is lacking this is lacking this. Exhibit more of this at the next cycle, and we'll
True.
talk again. One of the interesting things about GovTech, we were going through this like different practices, figuring out what to do, how to measure people, and it's pain in the ass, but it's very worth it. As in now, it's very transparent.
Yeah.
As I talked about earlier about the principle of least surprise, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out how to not surprise your team and your staff, lah. So, and making sure that they're ready for the next level. So it's like that one staff that I really want to try and promote. He already asked me about promotion. I was like, let's talk about behaviors. What have you got that matches? You're not ready with this cycle. Let's talk about it the next cycle, or maybe two cycles later, because it takes time to kind of like prepare a person for a promotion, right?
Importantly, like an engineering manager should be like transparent. Any manager, right, should be transparent, setting exact expectations, having that clarity coming from a manager. I think it's super important. Folks in tech in Singapore, what is missing at this moment? Do you think there should be a certain type of a meetup should be there that can help the modern developer grow?
I think we need more meetups that are technology agnostic. We have gone beyond technology silos into more of like figuring out what is the best tool for the job and
Yep.
what are the pros and cons of that thing, and understanding the thing, like, as I said, the constraints, the limits, and what you can do or cannot do. Feel we need more of those kind of like meetups rather than, oh, let's focus on this technology A, technology B. I think unfortunately a lot of like corporate sponsors or even companies who do this, who also want to push for a particular technology stack. I mean, I can understand what they're trying to do,
Yep.
but I think we also need to look at like beyond a technology stack, like what are the, and to really look at things objectively though. This is a problem. This is a problem space. What are the solution space available to us? And then from the solution space, figuring out how do you evaluate? How do you measure success? These are things I think we need to do as a community, lah. Because in end of the day, we also want to make sure we have good quality engineers,
Yep.
and we have a pipeline of good engineers, and teaching them skills beyond just the mechanical if else statements and all that stuff in the technology stack. I mean, anyone can do it. I mean, AI can do it,
Yep.
right? Any AI can say, I need to do this thing in Rust. AI can build it for you. But understanding whether that is the correct approach, the right
Yep.
approach, or the right solution for the right problem, right? So it could
Yep.
be the right solution, but for the wrong problem. Then it's like, yeah, it doesn't help. So it's about figuring out how we talk about product market fit, right? It's about solution problem fit, right? So
Yep.
how do you make that happen? And I think that requires a bit of like exposure and knowledge. I think that's where
Mhm.
kind of generalists like me also excels in. That we can think broadly, focus on like outcomes. I want to get this outcome. How do I? What are the outputs I need to do or deliver
True.
to get the outcome? So it's about. I think it's about that, figuring out how to. I think we need more meetups that are like that,
Yep.
or rather meetup content that are more that goes beyond. Here's technology A. What are
Yep.
the things? Why would you want to use technology A over technology B? Kind of thing. So, and what circumstances A will be better than B, or kind of like that kind of evaluation is needed, and that critical thinking. I would think the critical thinking around like solutioning, right?
Thank you, Michael, for joining for this episode of the Builder Story. Was amazing to have you, and wishing you all the very best.
Thank you very much. See you, Safrash.